One question that comes in the silence of night. Can you trust yourself after everything has painfully shattered? In this quiet nourishment of consciousness lies the first truth. It hurts so sharply now that it seems the pain will fill your entire body and thoughts. Notice this feeling. Allow it to take its place. For in this pain lies an indicator, not to the end, but to the beginning. Imagine a tree destined to bend under the wind. The roots do not tear away immediately. They seek deeper, absorbing light and rain. In this image is breath, warm, dry, grassy, and in it quietly grows the confidence that not everything is lost. Let this feeling be a gentle reminder. There is no shame here, no defeat. There is simply the process in which you are currently participating. The essence of the problem is simple, yet complex. Right now you feel that you have lost part of yourself, that the previous world has shattered into shards and cannot be gathered back with the same hands. This feeling of disconnection, like an empty room after laughter has left, is familiar to many. Do not hide this from yourself, but do not let this emptiness become final. Just as the sky looks colder and clearer after a storm, your inner space gains a new transparency. Feel how through this clarity pass the first glimpses of a new picture. You begin to discern what was previously hidden beneath the familiar armor. This is not a sudden miracle, but a gradual enlightenment that you will remember as if it occurred instantly. The promise of this path is not the promise of simplicity, but the promise of meaning. There will be no magic wand here, but there will be a deep change in your attitude toward yourself and the world. You will become different, not because you have forgotten the pain, but because you have learned to hear its language and translate it into understanding. Imagine a river that polishes a stone, not destroying it, but giving it shape. The feeling of water on your palm, the cooling smoothness, the rustle of the waves, and in this movement, a new rhythm emerges. Let this rhythm become an opportunity for you to trust the flow, not as surrender, but as an exploration of your own strength. The energy of the moment is quiet, but palpable. It is the feeling when dawn breaks through the curtains, the first thread of light that makes the room breathe anew. Allow yourself to feel this light, even if it seems weak and prickly. It will not give you an answer, but a direction, where to go to step softly, so you do not lose yourself again. The sense of the upcoming path does not require loud vows. It asks for attention and small acts of care. Each such act is a seed that will take root and become a sudden tree in the future that you cannot yet fully see. The path will not be linear. It will be full of bends, at times resembling old roads, and at times completely new trails. It is important not to forget that time in these changes works like a natural artist, layer by layer, brushstroke by brushstroke, sometimes removing part of the past to make room for a new picture. You will be surprised to notice that over time, the pieces that seemed a hopeless burden have become support. This is not an excuse for suffering, but a recognition of its transformative power. Do not romanticize pain, but respect its lessons. In this story lies your own truth, and it is not accidental. You are not alone in this feeling. Many have gone through nights when it seemed that the light was departing forever, and yet found themselves on the morning glade with a new breath. Let this image be close and warm. You are not alienated from those who walk beside you, even though your steps are unique. It is important to trust in your own solemn, quiet strength that appears gradually, like music gathering tempo from within. Feel the gentle warmth in your chest, a sign that somewhere inside a new understanding is beginning to form. And finally, a gentle impulse for body and spirit, like a small breath before the beginning of the journey. Allow yourself to be soft and persistent at the same time. Be closer to the light within. Trust the quiet movement. Now is the moment when the topic becomes especially important. In a world where rhythms accelerate and noise multiplies, pain often seems like an unwelcome guest that one wishes to expel as quickly as possible. But if you slightly muffle the noise and listen closely, another voice emerges. The voice of time, quietly whispering about the meaning of change. Allow yourself to hear this whisper. It speaks of the fact that not every wound is a sign of defeat, and not every loss is always an ending. In this acknowledgement lies freedom, not to save yourself from pain at any cost, but to understand its structure, its language, its possibilities for growth. The contrast between the present and the future is like the change of seasons. In winter, it seems that the world freezes, that each branch is covered in silent sorrow. But if you look closely, there is a secret work going on beneath the bark. Life is inaudible, yet continues. In spring, it will manifest in growth, in the smell of damp earth, in the simple, unruffled act of awakening. So it is with internal changes. Now may be winter within you, but this is preparation, shelter, and cleansing. Notice the scent of rain in this image. Feel the moisture on your skin, and you will understand that after cold, always comes a gentle awakening. To be here means to give yourself permission for your seasonality. Let this introductory tone be a sign for you. You are not alone in experiencing loss or disappointment. Millions of hearts know the weight of that night when moments that seemed eternal suddenly dissolve. At the same time, millions open their eyes to the same earth and notice how the light falls differently, how steps become more precise. In this kinship of experiences, a deep comfort, the realization that your path is not unique in solitude, but unique in expression. This understanding lifts the weight of shame and fills you with gentle confidence. You are part of a greater movement. Emotions here are not an enemy, but a map. They show the places where attention is needed, where there are cracks, and where possibilities are hidden. Imagine yourself a cartographer of your own soul, carefully outlining shores, drawing rivers, and marking swamps. This is not a task for haste. The lines are thin, sometimes blurred by the rain of memories. The feeling touches the palm, presses on the map, and you see. Where there were once only gray patches, now outlines of possibility appear. Feel the texture of the paper under your fingers, the coolness of the ink, and the surprise of discovering a new path. This sensation is a quiet invitation to explore further. The importance of the topic now also lies in the fact that the world around is changing as quickly as we are, and therefore old landmarks may lose their meaning. In this situation, the ability to transform pain becomes not a luxury, but a necessary skill, like the ability to find water in a drought-stricken place, but not through tension and struggle, but through the softness of attention and clarity of intention. Trusting yourself here is not a call to courage, but a quiet act of returning home, to your own boundaries, to your own rhythms, to your ability to hear the light within you even when darkness surrounds. Let this image evoke a sense of shelter, a warm blanket instead of heavy armor. The philosophical tone that fits here is simple and gentle. Life is not a series of victories and defeats, but a dialogue between what leaves and what comes. In this dialogue, there is room for sorrow and joy, doubt and wonder. Try to accept thoughts like clouds. They come, linger, and go, leaving behind the sky. Feel the lightness in your chest when you stop holding on to every cloud. Feel the wind on your face, reminding you of movement. This gradual letting go does not mean indifference. It means choosing to be a witness to changes, not a prisoner of them. The smooth transition to the main topic is the understanding that transformation is possible and real when it is accepted not as violence, but as gradual unfolding. You will become a different person, not by decree, but due to subtle internal rearrangements, increasing honesty with yourself, strengthening boundaries, and the emergence of a new measure of trust. Imagine how light, passing through a prism, splits into colors. Each color is an aspect of your life that begins to shine anew. Feel the gentle warmth from this light and trust its direction. And at the end of this introduction, a gentle breath, a small impulse. Allow yourself to be patient and attentive. Be present with yourself. Notice the light within. Calmness is not an instantaneous phenomenon, not a state that can be switched on at the push of a button. It is rather a quiet shore upon which the waves of your experiences step, first loudly and boldly, then ofter, then just a gentle rustle. Imagine standing by a river at twilight. The air is cool, the water carries its small stories, and you hold in your hands a pebble that once seemed heavy. Allow yourself to feel that weight, not forcing it away. Just watch as the water washes over the stone and gradually polishes its edge. In this image lies the first understanding. Calmness comes through contact, not through denial. Once there was a man who every morning tried to tame his anxiety with a to-do list. It was as if he were trying to stop the wind by stuffing curtains into his pockets. One day, instead of the usual list, he went outside and began observing how the leaves danced in the wind. He did not fight the wind. He allowed himself to be a witness. And he noticed that anxiety, without resistance, changes its tone. It no longer demands control over the entire day. It becomes just a nuance. This little episode is not about magic, but about changing one's attitude. When we stop demanding immediate control from ourselves, the inner space acquires depth. What can you do right now to bring this calmness closer? Start small. Take 1 minute in the morning for breathing, like a ritual, not as a task. Imagine inhaling as the reception of light, and exhaling as a quiet gesture of release. Repeat this several times, not to rid yourself of feelings, but to give yourself room to experience them. The next step is a practical boundary. Choose one small self-care ritual: a cup of warm tea without your phone, a walk without headphones, writing to yourself without a goal. These simple acts teach the nervous system that the world does not require constant mobilization. They create a foundation, a small basis of calmness that then expands. In the silence of these practices, observation blossoms. You begin to hear the subtle nuances of your reactions, noticing that anxiety often comes like an old acquaintance, demanding attention, but not always offering a solution. Here it is important to trust the process. Do not pressure yourself. Do not convince with strength, but gently shift your attention to what is truly important right now. Look at your thoughts like clouds over a river. They come and go, and behind them is the sky. Notice changes in your body. Your breathing is steadier, your shoulders lower, your voice quieter. These small changes are not coincidental. They are traces of a new habit. At the end of each such practice, allow yourself a small pause, like bowing to nature for the lesson. Feel the slight movement within. It is not a jerk, but an impulse, a step towards yourself. Allow this impulse to be a quiet beginning of the journey. Change is not a lightning strike, but a seasonal transition. When the days slowly grow longer and the air becomes softer. The power of change is hidden in the details, in new habits, in a different perspective on old patterns, in the small determination to say, enough, where you once remained silent. Imagine an empty garden after a frosty winter. At first, it seems that nothing has survived. But if you dig into the soil, you will find roots that have only been waiting for warmth. So it is within you. What seemed to be a loss often turns out to be the soil for a different growth. Feel this under your fingers. Sense the moisture and scent of new earth. One woman told me how after her divorce, she was afraid to re-enter simple interactions. Her strength did not appear immediately. She started small, returned to drawing, which she had abandoned in her youth, began to walk in the park, and record her feelings in a notebook. A year later, her world changed, not because someone came and said, "Now you are happy," but because she allowed herself small steps that gradually formed a new picture. Her story is about patience and respecting your own pace. It is a reminder, change takes time and respect for who you are now. The practical thought here is simple and gentle. Do not strive for a complete overhaul in one day. Break big expectations into small actions that you are ready to take for yourself. Choose one quality you want to cultivate. More attention, clarity, kindness to yourself, and practice it daily in small gestures. Write down your observations. What has changed in your body, in your thoughts, in your relationships? Share these observations with yourself as with a close friend. It helps to see the gradual process and stay on track. In quiet reflection, you may notice one more thing. Becoming a different person often requires letting go of some old masks. This does not mean losing pieces of yourself, but choosing those elements that no longer serve. Look at your roles and imagine which ones give life and which take away energy. Do not rush to cut anything off at once. Allow yourself to approach this as gardening, carefully, with respect. And when new growth appears, rejoice quietly, for it is from such small changes that great strength is built. Let a light impulse emerge at the end of this part. Notice one small step today, and trust that tomorrow it will become a part of your journey. Values are lanterns in the fog. They do not dispel the fog immediately, but provide direction to move forward without losing your bearings. When life changes, former values may resonate differently or stop aligning with your inner rhythm altogether. This is normal. It is an invitation to reevaluate what is truly valuable. Imagine holding several stones in your hands and deciding which ones to keep in your backpack for the long journey. Which stones are heavy and useless, and which ones contain warmth and a story worth carrying. In my practice, I have encountered people who, after a crisis, suddenly felt that their former achievements, work, status, external acknowledgements, had lost their flavor. One man decided to quit his prestigious job and became a volunteer in a small community. His choice was not a dramatic refusal of ambition. It was a quiet shift towards meaning. He wanted his days to involve more direct participation and small contributions. His story is not a call for radical change for everyone, but an example of how values can be redistributed when one's internal compass changes. Practical action. Try conducting a quiet inventory. Take a sheet and divide it into 2 columns: gives life and takes energy. Write down honestly, without judgments, just observing. After a week, you will see that some items repeat, and this will give you a map for small adjustments. Start with one item. If something takes a lot of energy, think about how to reduce its weight. Delegate, set a boundary, change your attitude. If something gives life, make more space for it, even if it's just 10 minutes a day. Reflection is important. It is valuable not only to realize what is important, but to feel it in your body. Try it. When you talk about what gives you strength, where does warmth appear in your body? How does your breathing change? These internal markers are genuine indicators. Trust them. They are often more honest than words. Notice how changing values slowly influence your circle of friends, your choice of timing, and how you respond to the world's requests. And a small nudge before stepping out. Choose one value and make a small gesture for it today. Let it be a step that gently alters your usual trajectory. A resilience is not a hard shell, but the flexible bark of a tree, which springs under the wind and returns to its original shape. We often envision boundaries as barriers, but in reality, they are another form of self-care, a way to maintain internal balance and the ability to face the world without depletion. Imagine the shore and the sea. The boundary is where the water meets the sand, and in this contact, life is born. Boundaries set with love do not repel. They protect the area where the most important things can grow. Story. One young woman long agreed to the invisible overload at work, afraid to say no. When her energy ran out, she could not sleep at night. Then she began to gently experiment. First with a small no for a task that could be postponed, then with a request for support. The world around her did not collapse. Rather, she found respect for her boundaries. Colleagues got used to the new rhythm, and she to the feeling of fullness. It is not about aggression. It is about carefully restoring one's own space. Practical step. Start by articulating your boundaries in calm writing to yourself. What is unacceptable for you? Where are you ready to compromise? And where are you not? Try expressing this through I statements. It is important to me. I can. I need time. Practice this first in a safe environment, in front of a mirror, in a notebook, in a conversation with a friend. Each such act is a brick in the new resilience. It is also important to learn to read the signals of the body, tension, fatigue, irritability, as indicators of a boundary that needs to be respected. Reflection allows you to see boundaries change along with you. Today, they are one way. Tomorrow, they are another. This is normal. It is important not to idealize rigidity, but to learn flexibility. Sometimes a boundary expands to let something new into life, and sometimes it contracts to preserve resources. Allow yourself to be the architect of your own space, but not a jailer. Look at your life as a garden. Some plants need protection from the wind, others, more light. And as a farewell to this part, a gentle nudge. Set one boundary today and notice how a little more silence and confidence will arise within. True happiness rarely comes as we imagine it, not as a reward for a list of completed tasks, but as a quiet phenomenon that arises when the inner landscape achieves wholeness. It's like a field after rain, where the air is fresher, the scent of the earth is brighter, and in this simple renewal, you feel a connection to something greater. The unpredictable power of happiness lies in its unimaginable ability to appear at the moment when you have stopped pursuing it. It is not a chase for a smile, but the preparation of an inner home where that smile can appear. There was a story about a man who searched for meaning in his career, status, and external achievements for many years. Finally, he decided to devote time to self-education and working with a local initiative, helping neighbors with small projects. His days became more measured, his actions less oriented towards proving his own worth, and more on simple presence. After a while, he felt the lightness he had previously confused with idleness. This feeling is not emptiness, but fulfillment, an inner resource that does not depend on external validations. Happiness appeared not as a prize, but as a result of new integration. Practical advice: start observing moments when you feel lightness or genuine interest, even if they last a couple of minutes. Write down these episodes. They are little beacons. Gradually, there will be more of them, and you will begin to see patterns. When they occur, with whom, at what time of day. These observations will help rearrange life priorities so that such moments happen more often. While doing this work, remember, radical changes are not necessary. It's enough to add places where you truly want to be. Reflection invites you to accept the unpredictability of happiness as part of the process. Sometimes it will come in the form of laughter at foolishness. Sometimes as the quiet morning light on the windowsill. Don't compare your happiness timeline with someone else's. Your measure is unique. Trust the little signs. They teach you where life blooms. And when the day comes, you will recognize joy by its simplicity, without unnecessary embellishments. And a gentle impulse to conclude: notice one spark of joy today, and allow it to remain in you like a quiet warmth. In this section, there is not a set of rules, but a gentle map for the first steps. Imagine these steps as 4 simple rituals that can be woven into your day without noise or struggle. Like a cup of warm tea in the morning silence. They will help turn your inner experience into a sustainable self-care practice, the very support that will eventually become the foundation of a new you. Please read this as an invitation. Try one element and observe how it begins to influence the rest. A morning minute of presence. Let the morning start not with a screen, but with a short, warm contact with yourself. Try dedicating 1 minute to simple breathing, not for the result, but for the sensation. An inhale as a reception of light, an exhale as a gentle release. If you wish, add a short supportive phrase. I am here, or I am okay right now. This is not a task, but an anchor that helps the body remember the rhythm of safety. If a minute feels too short, start with 30 seconds. Begin small and honor your time. A daily micro-journal. Allow yourself to write 3 simple lines in the evenings. 1 event that brought warmth, 1 observation of a boundary you clarified, and 1 small action you will take tomorrow. These entries are not for evaluation, but for witnessing your own life. After a week, such notes become a stream of changes, quiet evidence that transformation is happening. If writing feels difficult, try a voice note for yourself, or a few words in your phone's notes. The main thing is to start recording. 1 priority task for the day. In the flow of tasks, what truly matters can sometimes get lost. Choose 1 small goal for the day, not a list, but 1 direction, a conversation, a project, body care, or rest. Let it be something that restores a sense of meaning. Allow this item to become the measure of your day. If doubts arise, remember, small, sequential steps are usually stronger than sharp leaps. Pay attention to how your body responds. If tension appears, be mindful and gently adjust the pace. A boundary ritual. Do a simple exercise to establish a gentle boundary. At the moment you feel inner exhaustion, allow yourself to say in silence or words, "I need restoration right now." This is not aggression or justification. It is honesty towards yourself and others. Try to mark this note in your calendar as a reminder. Time for restoration. The world can be allowed to wait. This is an act of care that over time reduces meaningless exhaustion. Weekly check-in, micro-plan and tracking progress. Once a week, dedicate 10 to 15 minutes to quiet reflection. Review your micro-journal, note repetitions, where warm moments appeared more often, where boundaries held, and where you'd like to be gentler. Keep a simple table. Date. Mood on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 achievement. 1 idea for the next week. This will help visualize movement and maintain motivation without harsh evaluations. Don't chase the ideal tracker. A simple mark in the calendar or a note in a notebook is enough. Maintaining inspiration. Allow sources of inspiration to arise naturally. Create a playlist of short tracks that uplift your mood. Collect 3 phrases from books or letters that bring warmth. Choose one person with whom you can share observations weekly. Small inspiration rituals are like little lights along the path. They don't solve everything, but make steps easier. Also, be attentive to your body. Walking, sleep, water. These simple elements nourish the system and allow it to stay in motion. How to maintain motivation in the long term. Allow yourself to see progress, not through the lens of perfection, but through evidence. Journal entries. Calm morning minutes. Less evening anxiety. Set small monthly check-in points. Review notes, note 1 or 2 changes, and celebrate them quietly. If motivation drops, try reducing the plan. Don't abandon the practice. Sometimes it's important to simply return to one ritual that brought a sense of support. How to notice and work with setbacks. Refusals, returns to old patterns, a normal part of the process. When a step back is noticed, don't judge yourself harshly. Allow yourself to observe. What happened before the setback? What triggers? What would help to do differently? Write this down as an observation, not a verdict. Try to agree with yourself on the next simple step. Small and possible. Each return is a chance to understand the map more deeply, not to prove your weakness. Micro-plan for the week, an example that can be adapted. Monday, morning minute of presence, plus choose one priority task for the week. Tuesday, a short walk without gadgets, 10 to 20 minutes. Record one warm event in the journal. Wednesday, boundary exercise, mark in the calendar. Restoration, and 15 minutes of silence. Thursday, share an observation with a trusted person or a voice note. Friday, evening of gratitude. 3 things you are grateful for. Saturday, 20 minutes of creativity or hobby, with no goal, just for joy. Sunday, weekly check-in. Open the journal, assess your mood, and outline one goal for the next week. This plan is not a dogma, but an example. Start today with one element and see how it shakes your inner rhythm towards greater resilience. Allow yourself to make mistakes and be grateful for small successes. When you feel that something has become easier, remember that feeling and carry it as a sign. You are making progress. And finally, a light aftertaste of presence. Feel how a quiet tide of calm and clarity arises in your chest. The journey continues, and if this thought resonates with you, consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video. This way we will stay connected and not miss the next day of inspiration. Start today. When we summarize, it's important not to hastily gather things into a bag, but to carefully place each thought, like the warmth of past days. Let this conclusion be a gentle overview of the journey taken, from the pain that seemed all-consuming to the quiet rituals that can restore a sense of wholeness. This is not a story of quick healing, but of the gradual growing of the soul, about how you change without losing your softness. Perhaps it will be this softness that becomes your main guide. Remember the metaphor of changing seasons. Winter in your inner world was not a sentence, but a shelter where secret processes took place. Roots sought water, seeds gathered strength. And when spring comes, you won't notice it as a single moment of miracle, but as a series of small signs, a steadier breath, fewer sharp tilts towards fear, more clarity in choosing what is worth carrying forward. This gradual enlightenment is not a reason to forget the pain, but a reason to respect its lessons. It has taught you to hear and choose stronger and softer at the same time. Key thoughts to keep close. Values serve as a compass, boundaries as a zone of safety, rituals as powerful anchors, and reflection as the light that makes steps meaningful. Each small practice we discussed, a morning minute, a micro journal, one priority task, a boundary ritual, a weekly check-in, works like a musical part in the orchestra of your life. Alone, it may sound modest, but together, it creates a melody in which you recognize your strength. It is equally important to embrace patience as an ally. We often expect visible results quickly, forgetting that roots grow slowly and deeply. Be gentle with yourself during these periods. Allow yourself rest. Allow yourself to return to beginnings if needed. In moments when it seems like you are standing still, remember, nature also has days when visible changes are absent, and yet life stirs beneath the surface. May this knowledge be a comfort. Also, let me remind you of the respect for your own individuality. The paths of transformation are different for everyone. Your rhythms are unique. Don't compare your morning with someone else's lunch. Observe, try, adapt. If one suggestion feels foreign, treat it as a hint, not a requirement. Sometimes significant change happens when you give yourself the right to be imperfect while being persistent in small matters. Let a light gratitude emerge in this final part, for being present with this text, for giving yourself a moment of attention. This is already an act of care, a sign that there is space for change within. Remember, transformation is not a goal, but a path that unfolds step by step. You don't have to rush. You can move at your own steady pace and trust that this journey forms a pattern that will be visible later. And finally, an emotional message. Even if it feels cold and heavy right now, within you, there is already a spark of warmth. It may manifest as a small smile at an unexpected moment, as a desire to reach out to another person, as a longing for a simple ritual. These sparks are not coincidental. They signal that you are not just surviving, but also building a new home within yourself. May this knowledge warm you, like a light blanket on a quiet evening, and give you a gentle confidence that everything is moving towards the light. Feel now the brief breath of hope. It is quiet, yet steady. Be attentive to yourself. Be present with this feeling and allow it to nourish the next steps. And if this journey resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like, so we can stay close and share the upcoming days of inspiration together. Stay with yourself, and may your path continue. Slowly, honestly, in the light of the inner dawn.